They grew up just a few houses apart.
His father was a very close friend to my father, and we grew up in the same village. We were very close friends when we were young.
Calixt, the younger boy, nurtured a talent for poetry and music into adulthood. Andrew became a family man and preacher with a head for business.
Yeah, right from childhood, I've been buying and selling stuff, but on a small scale.
No one could have conceived of the unearthly hatred that would shatter their friendship, their families, and their country. German and then Belgian colonialists had traditionally favored the minority Tutsis in Rwanda, granting power and benefits based on a perceived physical resemblance to Europeans. Ethnic identity cards were issued in the 1930s. The majority Hutu were oppressed and disadvantaged. Tutsi kings ruled until the Civil War of 1959. The Hutu gained power after Rwanda's independence in 1962. Half the Tutsi population fled, and a government campaign of hatred against them intensified. Extremist radio stations called Tutsis cockroaches and urged their extermination.
There was a lot of tension and hatred.
Finally, the bloodlust exploded.
It started by burning houses and rotting, and then the killings started later.
On April 6, 1994, after the death of Rwanda's president in a suspicious plane crash, the government's targeted mass murder of Tutsis and moderate Hutus launched with chilling precision. There was no mercy, even in the most sacred of places.
And I always remember, we could smell the church before we saw it.
World Vision's John Shank arrived some 10 days after the horrors began, led by rebel troops to one of the churches where the hunted had sought refuge.
There were bodies 3-4 deep in smaller rooms that looked like they had been the Sunday school rooms. Bodies piled outside, just everywhere.
In a nation of only 7 million people, 800,000 to 1 million were beaten, shot, and hacked to death with machetes. 6 men, women, and children slaughtered every minute of every day for 100 days.
What was so demonic about the whole thing was this genocide had been planned well in advance.
Andrew had managed to hide his Tutsi wife, Madrine, but her parents, brothers, and 5 relatives were butchered in the frenzy.
I was traumatized during the genocide. Many family members had been killed. I saw most of them dead. I hid. Whenever I heard people passing by in big groups, I thought they were coming for me.
Madrine couldn't comprehend this horror between people who had once intermarried and lived together so peacefully. And then came another horrific realization, that Andrew's friend, Calixt, had been among the mob that murdered Madrine's family.
I hated him. I hated them, because those that were involved were from this village. But I hated them and wished they all died as well.
Andrew reported his old friend, testified against him, saw him convicted and sent to prison. As Rwanda reeled, World Vision responded.
I remember that World Vision provided emergency to survivors by providing food and household equipment,
as well as shelter and safe places for lost or orphaned children.
There were 100,000 children estimated to be separated from their families when we went in. So we had a lot of children who were in these care centres initially.
They were very scared. Some were crying. They didn't know what had happened to their parents.
How could anyone understand? Where could healing even begin?
We discovered that without the peace of heart, without the true trust between the community, without the real cohesion, harmony within the community, nothing works.
So World Vision integrated strong healing, peace-building, and reconciliation programs into every aspect of its work in Rwanda. That meant working together on projects to re-terrace the land, together, Hutu and Tutsi, and regenerating livelihoods side by side, creating opportunities for orphaned young people, and health care for everyone, no matter their background.
It was something to be on the ground, because it was like a foundation for any development work in this country.
Madrine, who had lost so much, and Marcella, the wife of Calixte, who'd been among Madrine's family's killers, were assigned together as World Vision community volunteers overseeing child sponsorships.
During visits with children, we would meet in the neighborhood, and those encounters helped us repair our relationship.
To rebuild a shattered country, you must rebuild shattered people. World Vision developed a specific model for that endures today. It's an almost 2-week program of sharing intensely personal memories of the genocide, learning new tools to manage deeply painful emotions, and considering a path to forgiveness.
Yes, it's a test of faith, and it's not something easy to do.
This approach was replicated all over the country and embraced by the new government. It was often resisted at first and sometimes took years to change hearts, but has proven transformative.
Forgiving makes you free. That kind of burden you are carrying in your heart, when I say I have forgiven you with a sincere heart, it releases you from the burden and you feel much better.
But what about perpetrators like Calixte?
I felt so guilty participating and seeing all that happening, and although I didn't kill people, I was involved in the groups and I didn't do anything about it.
Trainings during his 12 years in prison had softened his heart. He passed the time crafting guitars and writing songs about his deep remorse. As part of the peace-building program, he did what all perpetrators were encouraged to do.
He also came and asked for forgiveness.
The Rwandan people have an encyclopedic understanding of forgiveness after their calamity. And here is the heart of it. You can forgive and free yourself, but to reconcile with people who've hurt you requires their participation as well. Only when a perpetrator has honestly confessed and repented, and a survivor has chosen forgiveness, can they find reconciliation together.
It is very, very important to me that his family forgave me. It has given me peace. It has set us free, me and him. It has set our families free.
Over many years, Calixte and Andrew's families learned to trust again, even to go into business together. Today, their children are close friends, like their fathers and grandfathers before them. The mothers care for both families as their own. They are still neighbors, and as close as they were as boys.
I will not forget the factors that led to this, like being a Christian, and the fact that World Vision also kept on coming to us with trainings, and knowing that during his time in prison, he accepted Christ and repented. All those are the factors that have resulted to forgiving him completely and uniting and becoming friends again. We have hope for a better future, and we shall get there together.
Rwanda has banned ethnic identity cards and urged all to consider themselves Rwandan. The country has made impressive strides in health, education, and its economy, a remarkable feat just 20 years after a genocide. But it is here, in this small village, where you can most clearly see the lessons of this land, in the story of these two men.
Even our neighbors, even other people in this community, they know that it is possible for people with such background to forgive and become brothers again.
Even after a hatred that threatened to eclipse the sun, it is possible to rediscover humanity, the transcendent power of forgiveness, and always the grace of God.